Welcome YouTube to this big jungle tier list for this patch. I will show you which champions I would recommend you guys to play to print LP. As well, I will give you my opinion on every single champion in the jungle, strengths and weaknesses on those champions, and what you should look out for whilst playing them or playing against them. So it will be very educational, and I'll give you a lot of tips and tricks throughout all your way. For those who don't know who I am in Challenger for 7 years plus, and I do educational League of Legends content in the jungle and a lot of coaching. So there's a lot that I'm very glad to share with you. We're gonna start immediately with printing LP. Which champion do you think right now is the strongest in lower MMR? The entire tier list will be from Iron to around Emerald Elo. So I'm gonna ask you, it's not one of those three. Which champion is the strongest out of all of them? It is, let's see if you were right, Briar. Briar has the highest win rate in average at all elos. 45%, 55, 53, 52, 53, 53. The win rate throughout every single elo in the lower ranks is ridiculously high. Now, I would recommend you to play Briar as well to print LP in these below ranks. Why is that? Briar has a lot of weakness that she's just getting kited. But in low MMR, people don't know how to kite properly, and they will also start attacking the Briar. What is important when you play Briar is that you know in even numbers, the biggest fundamental in the entire League of Legends is numbers advantage. In even numbers means a 2v2, 3v3, or 4v4. We just say those as like option, right? Briar has always the upper hand. And because people constantly fight, she will always have an advantage. In higher ranks, Master Tier, Grandmaster, Challenger, I would definitely not recommend to play Briar because again, she's just gonna get kited. Her biggest weakness is that when she Ws, she's forced to attack the nearest champion until she hits E. In low MMR, people will stat check a lot and fight. You can utilize that to your advantage and climb. Throughout every single champion that I recommend, you need a decent champion mastery, at least 30 games played until you will see results. Briar is one of those champions where, statistically speaking, you will have the upper hand. Let's start now with the other champions that I would recommend to print LP in a way that you will straight up have an advantage. Now keep in mind, if you have a lot of practice with some specific champions, means 50 games plus to maybe 100 games plus, I would rather want you to play those than the champions I recommend for printing LP. In the end, a tier list is just that you have another idea of how champions work, strengths and weaknesses, and you see my opinion just from an entertaining perspective. But keep in mind, if you have practiced one champion to a very high degree, you should keep playing that specific champion, especially on a one-trick basis. If you have 200 games of Master Yi, you should not start playing Briar, you should play Master Yi. With every single champion, no matter the win rate, you can climb to Challenger Elo without any issues. And if you cannot, means you are not good enough. And then you need to focus on improving your macro, your micro, and of course your mentality. And my friend, with that, I'm 100% certain I will do my best, you can do your best to climb. Nocturne. Nocturne always has been one of the strongest champions in the entire lower MMR to print LP. Why is that? Because the champion itself is basic. What you should be doing with Nocturne, big tip from my side, is you need to clear always until you're level 6. At best, chickens into Crux, into Red Buff, into Wolves, into Grump, into Blue, into Top Scuttle, looking for a gank into base, or chickens again on respawn into Crux, into base, and you farm until you have level 6. You don't fight when you don't have level 6. You don't fight the dragon when you don't have level 6 unless there's a very promising gank. Once you do have your ult, you look out for a position where you have a 2v2, 3v3. Nocturne is one of the strongest ults in the game. Through that you have an advantage. Through that advantage you most likely win the fight. Through the fact that you won the fight, you then have a snowball factor through which you can keep your snowball, and through your snowball, that's now the most important in Nocturne, you will build a secondary win condition, which is most of the time your ADC, mid laner, and in some cases even your top laner. You play around them and you make sure that they will be in a carry position to carry you in the mid late game. That is what you do with Nocturne, and you can climb already. Also, Briar is gonna get nerfed next patch. Apart from that, in lower MMRs, you will still be extraordinarily strong. Diana. With Diana, champion-specific strengths is that she is one of the fastest clearing champions in the entire game. Additionally, has an insane scaling. You want to be high CS per minute with Diana, get sneaky catches here and there. Through that, build a snowball position, 1-2 levels ahead of the enemy jungler on average. You can try to play a lot for enemy chickens respawn timer, which doesn't matter too much in lower MMR. What matters for you is you need to have a consistent clear speed, or take all your camps on respawn. You play with setup, means with some stunts, Twisted Fate, gold card stunts or whatever, and you're very good at taking objectives in the first place with Diana. Cho'Gath is a printing machine in lower MMR because the games will not end. In low MMR, the average game length is actually way higher than the higher MMR we go, because people don't know how to close out games, which is one of the biggest coaching tips that I always give on the way, how to close out games in the mid-late game macro. Now with Cho'Gath, because the games don't get closed out, he will eat more and more and more, get more tanky, get more size, get more HP in the first place, and through that he will always be a bigger problem. Therefore his scaling is very decent, and even in the earlier games I would view him as pretty decent as well in the fighting aspect. So if you want to play and print LP even after the Briar nerfs, Briar, Nocturne, Diana and Cho'Gath will be your choice. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna put all the champions in the S tier immediately, and then I'm gonna talk about them. Okay, let's continue with S and A tier champions. I'll tell you why I think these champions are strong and what you can do against it at best. So we take first of all Amumu. Amumu, very basic clear, very fast clear, and one of the strongest champions when you have even numbers or slight numbers advantage. He's actually insanely strong because he has a double CC. He can do it on chain CC, let's say a Twisted Fate gold card hits, into a Amumu Q, into a Amumu ult. They always die. With Amumu, you just need to know how to clear and to play with your team. That's it. The rest is gonna be nature. Additionally, if you lead your team really well, telling them when to play for objectives, when to go for fights, the games in lower elo should be insanely easy. Like insanely easy. Okay, talk about Master Yi. I love Master Yi. One of legit my favorite character in entire League. This champion is art. Why? Because nobody will match his DPS factor. It's insanely high. And for Master Yi, similar situation. You try to die a lot, very little, because if you die, you lose time. If you lose time, you lose gold you earn per second, and Master is the most gold scaling champion in the entire game. So killing someone and dying for that is okay if you get a lot of gold, but just keep in mind that if you die, you lose time, you lose gold per second, and other Master Yi players will outcompete you. So Master Yi, try to have a decent CS, always consistently high, and the reason Master Yi is so strong is because enemies will do mistakes. You punish them, you kill, let's say, the first enemy front to back, and then you get your resets, and then all the other 4, even if they play well, will get punished. In Challenger Elo, if all 5 Challenger players will play correct, Master Yi is a harder time. But if you see one enemy is doing a mistake and you punish that, that punishment will lead to those 4 players playing correctly. They will suffer a lot through it. But in lower MR, all 5 enemies will do mistakes, so you have a lot to punish on and snowball through. Ramos is a very basic champion, very similar than Amumu. My big advice for you guys is legit learn how to play with numbers. The biggest fundamental in the entire League of Legends, I can tell you. You can climb to Emerald Plus if you understand that fundamental deep on that level, that you will be grouped at the right time. You will avoid fights when enemies are on numbers. If enemies have 4 people on Dragon and you only have 2, you don't contest it because enemies have numbers advantage, and then it will lead to you dying. Similar, enemies will not respect that fundamental as you do because you're learning it, and they will end up dying. So you have already another tool to outcompete. These champions are really strong in general. Not too hard to manage. I would say Warwick, Volibear, pretty decent to manage. Vi, Xin, these champions, Malphite, Malefitte, Nunu, these champions are pretty easy to manage, but have a very good output. Nunu, insanely good reganking potential, taking objectives really well. Malphite, you just farm, and whenever you have ult, you gank a lane, get a 100% consistent kill. You ult them. That's simple. Xing Zhao, really good ganking on setup. When you have one CC tool that consistently hits, again, gold card. Let's take LeBlanc chain. Let's take any Q. Let's take Pike, Leona Q. If you think that your team will be able to get that one stun off, you can get at minimum 40% damage off, which almost always leads to a kill. Plus, his fighting skills is actually pretty strong. Why? You can get early dragons really quick. Very powerful champion to get that. Your ult is a consistent CC tool where you can kill the enemy's strongest opponent. Vi is one of the strongest 1v1 characters. As you can see, those tools alone will lead to you having the chance to climb. Additionally, when you play against Vi, be careful of First Dragon. If you play against Vi, be careful that you don't put yourself in a 1v1 position, and if she ults someone, then she's vulnerable. Volibear, very strong 1v1, 2v2 character. Good at clearing, good at taking objectives, fine at ganking, on setup again. It's similar than Ramos, but Ramos is easier and tankier. So Volibear is played pretty similar than Ramos, just has a little bit more farming option. And the ganking on good setup is really very, very strong. Now we have Warwick. You just farm. You follow your W whenever enemies are low. When there's a high chance you find ganking option. Echo. Similar as Diana. You have one of the best scaling plus clear combos possible. And you can find good catches. Be aware how you use your Ws, your Es. But don't just throw it randomly. Be very cautious of how you use your abilities. Additionally with your ult. Your ult is your only disengage tool. Graves. What do you think is Graves' biggest strength? His raw damage output. Insanely strong. Really beautiful to play. I myself can't wait to play him more. You go full raw damage. Be careful that you're glass cannon. And you will know your damage way better than enemies will know your damage. Again, that is a tool to outcompete with the enemies. Kha'Zix, the best assassin in the entire game right now. Why is that? Because he has an insane damage output and he always has his stealth and jump for disengaged tools. If a Kha'Zix invades and enemies stop him, he jumps up. If a Malefic invades, you can still catch him. He only has ult. If he is level 5 or something and invades, you just stun him and he dies. A Kha'Zix can jump out and try to dodge stuns and stuff like that. Wukong and Shen in general in this patch and in the next patches for sure, very strong. Shen has a consistent dash, hits, ult very powerful to practice your strongest allies. In general, in low MMR, there's always 1 or 2 hyper carries that you can play for. Additionally, if you play against them, you want to stop them. Again, Vi ult, you want to stop those hyper carries. Then we have Malphite ult, sometimes Jarvan ult, stopping those hyper carries. Wukong ult, stopping those hyper carries. Nothing they can do. Wukong can almost always kill an enemy ADC, 60-70% HP taken away from them consistently. Double ult, Q, resets. You can do too. Shyvana. I'm very curious how strong she's gonna be in the upcoming patches, but she's very decent because she's in everything better than others. She's not specifically good at, for example, Graves is at raw damage output, but people in lower MMRs don't know their specific strengths, as I've been telling you what they are. And they don't know a lot of these things, like Vi being a 1v1 character, Graves having insane raw damage, Nunu having the perfect gank setup. They just do what they think is good, but they don't actively think about what is correct. What their champion identity is. That is not what they think about, but you will know. And if they just do what they feel like doing, then Shyvana will outcompete everything. Okay, Jarvan. If you play Jarvan, play around your flag. I recommend the Bruiser build, not the Lethality build and lowers MMR. Bruiser build, which is Sandra Sky into Black Cleaver into Frozen Heart Spirit Visage, and you play around your flag. That means EQ, and you have your second Q for your flag again. When you ult enemies that cannot get away out of your ult. You have a good potential to climb and win with that. Okay, now I'm gonna overview those champions real quick. The B, C, and D tier. The D tier, Nautilus, Urgot, Camille are all just not viable. Then we go to the Z tier real quick. All of these champions are fine. Could be potentially strong, especially if you are very unique and OTP style on them. Elise has good potential to be a 1v9 carry. Viego should be even higher in this tier list. Like Viego, is actually very weak. Even if you say, yeah, but enemy Viego goes 1v9, the champion is actually very weak. He is just 1v9 if he's in snowball position. It's a very dominant character that always is like, you always see that he is existing in the map. He's also playing a lot for resets. If you have a lot of experience on Viego, or if you want to learn him in low MMR, that's also a fantastic way of learning the game in general, because you pick up so many characters. Keep in mind, if you're a good Viego player, or if you understand the game very well, he is one of the best champions to play or smurf or do anything with in low MMR, because you snowball, you are the leader, you are in control. A lot of champions here, Katos, is a vacuum cleaner in the jungle. Rengar, very decent assassin. Talon, very decent assassin. Kindred, good scaling. The game goes very long. You have a lot of marks. You can always carry in the mid late game. The problem, and why I put them on Z tier, B tier, and D tier, is because low elo players don't do that. That's why it's low elo, it's not that good actually. I rather recommend you play a basic champion like Jax and Pantheon. With Pantheon, you press W. With Jax, you just jump at them. You know, so I want it to be easy for you. Now, Lee Sin and Kayn are both B tier because they are, of course, I would say not too bad. They are okay, but they are difficult to play, yet they can work as well, really, really well. Now, keep all of this in mind, guys. You can climb with any champion without any problem if you get better at jungling in general. I can take any champion. We take a random champion like now, Gwen. What would I do to climb with Gwen? A very useless champion right now. She should even be a little bit lower, right? She's pretty weak. What do I do with Gwen in order to climb? If I was playing in low MMR, I find something where Gwen is specifically good at. What do you guys think? Her scaling is good. Her farming is pretty decent. At like second item, she outscales. So I give first dragon, maybe grubs. I try to gank only the lanes where I get really good kills. I try to find even invading positions. Sounds strange, but when enemy jungler is busy with ganking that I get into their jungle, I try to build a CS lead of 20, 30, 40 CS average per game in that game. And the moment I have 2 free items, I have a lot of damage. And because I know my champion well, enemies don't know your champion well, you have another tool to outcompete. So it doesn't matter which champion you play. You have a specific strength. Elise, invading and ganking and tower diving. You have a specific strength and you build on that. Sejuani being tank, playing in numbers advantages. Kiana, insane one-shot potential against squishies, against tanks. She's useless. So that would be for the draft also pretty bad. Gragas is in general garbage. This champion just has too high cooldowns for what he does. They're just, Evelyn, for example, is just better than Gragas or Lilia. They are just better in a circle. Then Olaf is very simple as well. But then I would say that Pantheon is just better than Olaf. Why would I play Olaf when I can just do the same with Pantheon, you know? Then Talia is getting buffed, is doing chill, doing amazing, but she is very squishy. And you need to know how to position really well, which is also an issue in low MMR, right? In general, it's very basic. This is the entire tier list now. And yeah, I wish you good luck on your climbing. I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to give you some thoughts and ideas. Now, if you take one big thing away, numbers is the biggest fundamental in the entire League of Legends. You need to find champion-specific strength. If you have good champion mastery, you can climb. And if you're the GOAT, you're the fucking GOAT. Let's go. Wish you the best. Kiss your hearts.